So this is officially episode 2 of what we're calling the Chamber.
Yep.
Which is a podcast for the Melville Coburg Chamber of Commerce members. And the idea is we're getting the stories behind some of the familiar faces and businesses that are part of the Chamber. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a chat about who you are, what you do, how you came to get into the marketing game, and some of the success stories about your clients and the people you work with.
Yep.
So do you want to give me like the 2-minute version about who you are and what you do?
So my name is Clarence Ling of Marketlytics. I am an online pay-per-click advertising specialist, and my agency specializes in online pay-per-click advertising. We primarily work with lawyers across the country, but we do take other. Also have past experience doing e-commerce sales, and we're good at that despite the fact that it's not the same as the law for marketing. Our biggest return for a client was 1,258%, which means that for every dollar they spent, they received $12.58 back in the bank account.
Awesome. Very good. So I understand from our conversations you were once a lawyer in a past life, is that right?
Yeah, I was once a lawyer, practicing lawyer. I'm technically still a lawyer because I'm not struck off the roll, so to speak.
Yeah, so it makes sense to be working still in that industry. So how did you get into law, and why did you choose that initially as a profession?
I actually started in law and psychology, and the reason was that I wanted to study psychology, but my father said it's not really has great career options, so he made me do law side by side, and for some reason I decided to drop psychology instead of dropping law, and I focused on law, which surprisingly the practice of law has some psychology in it, especially when dealing with opponents or clients, so to speak.
And so after you finished your degree, did you end up practicing as a lawyer?
I did practice as a lawyer.
Yeah. And what sort of law were you doing?
I was a generalist, so I did all kinds of law like criminal, commercial, civil, personal injury, family law. I did many areas of law, but I was just not really a specialist in any of them.
Yep. And was that here in Australia?
It was here in Perth.
Yeah, great. And where were you from originally?
Malaysia.
And when did you move to Perth?
When I was 17 or 18.
Okay, so you did your study here and
Yeah. I started out in Canning College,
yep.
In the college style year 12 instead of the high school style year 12.
Cool. So to go from a career in law to marketing is 2 very different career paths, and I would say 2 very different personalities are attracted to those types of careers. So what made you transfer and what created that jump?
So it's a long story. It started out in a law firm, and I was doing business development, and I had got a partnership with an international real estate agency on board with my law firm. So I received an offer from the international real estate agency to go with them, so I took it. I went overseas for 3.5 to 4 years, and I was actually in their marketing department leading it. And over there, in our best year of sales for that agency, selling Australian real estate overseas, we sold $25 million worth of real estate.
It's a lot of millions.
Yes.
That's great. And that was all through digital marketing?
It's mainly through Facebook marketing events.
Yep. And, okay, so were you selling like investment properties here in Australia, or were you selling residential?
Residential, but some of them were for investment purposes, some of them were for their children. Because at the time, it was cheaper to buy an entire property than pay rent. Even before this day where we have such ridiculous rent prices.
Yeah. And so were you helping buyers in, was it Malaysia, to get property here in Australia?
We mainly did Malaysia, but we also did Singapore, Taiwan,
yeah.
Hong Kong, those kind of areas.
Right. And was the model driving people to a in-person event
yes.
about getting into the property market in
yes.
Australia? And
yes.
the sort of the legalities
yes.
around that?
A lot of the reason why in the city of Perth, where there's a lot of people from a state of Malaysia called Sarawak, a lot of the driving force behind that migration is actually through our real estate sales.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And were you selling properties off the plan or?
Off the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
of the plan, or like house and land,
Yeah.
or apartments that are about to be built.
And so you were advertising through, was it like Facebook or LinkedIn?
Mainly
ads
Facebook
to an event.
to an event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was the targeting on that very specific? Were you looking to target a certain demographic? Or
It's more that you target the city that you're in when you want to be in the city or when you're about to reach the city. So we treat it a bit like a TV ad. So it's fairly simplistic at the time how it was set up, but it was effective.
Yeah, fantastic. So how did you make that leap from real estate and then come back into marketing and effectively
So
specializing
the
in
Australian government or the Australian government's tax. So there is a foreigner tax even now, but at the time the rate of foreigner tax was high as 7% in Sydney. So that 7% or whatever percentage it was, made it unfinancial for the rental scheme thing that they were doing to work. Because what happened was that after the tax was slapped on in stamp duty and other taxes, it made renting cheaper than purchasing a new property. And in fact, that's such a shortage of houses and apartments in Perth and Western Australia because the developers were relying on mainly foreign sales to get the projects off the ground. So those taxes as a result of more foreign investment, making more houses and apartments available before we had the crunch because of COVID.
that transition into your own agency and getting back into law. Tell us about that process.
So I went back to Perth because of the model being killed, but I actually started trying addressing real estate agents first before I did lawyers, because I was more recently a real estate agent. But I found because real estate agents are salespeople, they cannot be sold to, or they're harder to sell to. So as a result, I diverted back to legal because I didn't know any networking groups. I wasn't in networking as a marketer, but essentially I needed to market myself to get my own clients because I didn't know or didn't realize anything about networking groups like the NCCC. So I had to be good at that, or else I'm not going to get my first clients.
Great. So then, how did you break into the law scene here in Australia? I guess it would have helped. You would have had a network. Is that right? Or
actually, Western Australian lawyers, although they were some of my first clients, right? I received very little attention from Western Australian lawyers. I received the most attention from Eastern States lawyers, especially in New South Wales, Victoria, and Queensland. So I get almost not much attention from Perth or Western Australia.
Why do you think that is? Is that just?
It's because there's more lawyers in a denser population in those states,
yep,
and the competition level is higher, so they need something of an edge. Whereas over here in Perth, Western Australia, the lawyers are looking for just run-of-the-mill stuff, and they don't think of trying to push the envelope or trying to get better results other than what they think they can get.
And there probably isn't as much of a need if it's not as competitive here in Perth versus over east.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think the same would be true for real estate. Like, real estate agents are effectively small business owners, and they may not have as much resources to invest into something like ad campaigns.
That's another thing I realized of real estate agents later. None of them have money for advertising,
yeah,
or very few of them, if any.
Different to the legal industry, I would imagine, where it's more lucrative, or
Yes.
more of an essential service, I'd say.
Yes.
In some respects.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about your process. Like, how do you like to work with your clients, and what's typically involved when they want to get started with you?
So I always have a discovery call to find out their needs. Then there's two branches that happen after that. If they want me to do an overall assessment of their business, I do an overview audit. If they're ready to brief me on a campaign, I do what's called, for lawyers, I call it the legal lead booster. For other businesses, I call it the business accelerator system. It's basically a design process to design a strategy to get the result they want.
Yep.
Using our 6 chosen channels of marketing. So we are proficient in 6 channels. We mainly do online pay-per-click advertising, but we obviously know things about SEO and also LinkedIn outreach.
And what do you find are the best channels for the legal industry?
Mainly Google and Facebook, but an untapped and underutilized channel is LinkedIn, because there's a lot of lawyers who have commercial interests or could have commercial interests, such as, let me give you an example. If you were a divorce lawyer and you wanted high net worth clients, what would you do on LinkedIn?
Well, that's a really good question. Probably search based on job role or based on industry that they work in.
Yes, more or less correct, but have you ever thought of targeting directors who need to protect their assets out of the divorce?
Okay, yeah, great point.
See how a different channel than typically used can make a whole difference on the playing field?
Yep.
That's what I provide to my clients. I try my best to level the playing field and make them above the playing field.
Yeah. What other lawyers are doing in the same industry?
Yes, I don't want them to do the same thing other lawyers are doing.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
Just a general rule.
Very good. And then for the clients that you've got outside of the legal sector, typically who would you work with?
I do it by referral. So Paul Weir, who's the vice president of the chamber, he is my client, and he has a music school. So one focus that I have is video marketing and video production. And Paul is a video producer, so it's easy for him to get the videos. But do you know what the difference is between no video and video for him? I'll tell you where he started out.
Yeah.
When the privacy issues came because of that affected Facebook recently, I think it's iOS 14.
Yeah.
His cost per lead jumped to $120 a lead. That's unfinancial for a music school, okay? Do you have any idea what the lowest cost per lead we've ever achieved so far was?
No.
$20.99.
It's a bargain. Big difference for him.
It's a sixth of the original cost.
Yeah.
And so it's actually performing better than it has ever performed because he used video.
And so do you find video had more of an impact with his target audience than...
Video always has more impact than anything else. Even in search ads and Google ads, there's ways to weave video into it. But the issue is, what do you put in the video?
And are you using those videos just on the platforms, or are you driving people to a landing page, or both?
Depends on the situation, but both. Either on platform or landing page situations are both usable and possible.
Yeah. And for those people who don't know, then because we're using marketing lingo, for those people who don't know what a landing page is or a video sales letter, can you explain a little bit about that process and why it's important to maybe look at that as part of a marketing campaign?
A landing page is the page where the user lands on when it goes through an ad, or whether it's text, image, or video based. So any first page is called a landing page. Okay. Now a landing page has a few functions, and one of the most important functions to collect the lead or sale, if applicable. But the other role of it is to qualify the lead by explaining what's on offer. So it excludes people who do not want the offer, even if it's a sub-offer or lead magnet that is there. And a video sales letter gives, let me put it this way. If the context of the content compels, you get the lead or sale. And video can condense, if a picture is 1,000 words, a video is hundreds to thousands of pictures. So you can condense really dense messages very quickly through video, and that's why people will make the decision to buy or opt in to the service or product.
So you might have some potential clients listening to you now, and they're thinking, oh, I don't want to get on camera, I'm not comfortable speaking. What would you say to that person, and what kind of tools have you got in place to to help them with that process?
Well, the first thing I said, do you want to pay through your nose for your leads and sales?
Most people would say no.
Yeah. Do you want to have an unfinancial loss-making campaign?
And again, no.
Yeah. The most important thing is to start doing it. I started making my own videos in 2019 or 2018. No, 2019. This is 2024. I've been doing videos for 5 years. And the most important part of doing videos is to start in it. And if you are working with a video producer or a videographer or a team of video producers and whatever technical people are there should be someone to direct the shoot, and therefore they will help you get the right tone and right pacing and right. Especially if you've got more than one person on set, because it's hard for a single person to direct and maneuver the equipment. But if you've got multiple people on set, and that's why video production can be expensive, but if you've got multiple people on set, one person should at least be in charge of directing, even if they're not a professional director, because it can make a huge difference when you comment on their tone, their speed, and presentation.
And I think business owners have to remember that's a skill in itself, like public speaking, whether it's in networking or at a presentation or a workshop or on video. It's like a skill you have to develop.
Actually, a lot of people don't realize that the standard of acting in video is actually quite low.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a brilliant actor, you just have to be audible and clear. That's really the main criteria. I work with lawyers. Even though they present themselves in court, they're not really that good on camera.
Yeah, it's it. And I guess really at the end of the day, it's about communicating a message that's specific to the person who's looking for it. So you don't have to be overly engaging. It's not like TV, right? Where you're trying to capture someone's attention and hold it for 30 minutes to an hour. This is someone who's actively searching for your service.
Actually, in social media, you never search. No one searches. Well, you do search for things in social media, but you're not. Most of the time, you're not searching. You presented something randomly, based on an algorithm. So you stumble across things on social media rather than search most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's the brilliance of social media, because it targets less aware audiences a lot more effective than Google Ads, because Google Ads can only target product aware to most aware audiences. If you want to target a colder audience, it's not that possible unless you use a different mechanism from Google. So with Google, they have multiple formats, so each format can hit a different level of awareness. In Facebook or LinkedIn even, or most social media platforms including TikTok, it actually covers the entire range of awareness stages in that one format, but it's just the messaging and the targeting that determines where you hit, which awareness that you hit.
So we're getting towards the end of our time. Before we wrap it up, I want to talk about the Chamber. So how long have you been a member here?
Probably 2020. No, let me think. 2020 or 2021.
And you're also involved with the board. How long have you been on the board? Because it's not your first year, is it? You've been
second year.
Yeah. Okay. And so what sort of experience have you had as a member of the Chamber?
Very good.
Let's give a glowing review for Monique.
Yes, Monique's excellent. She keeps everything hot. But I work with lots of people in the NCCC, including the board members. Paul Weir is and Sudi Weir. Well, Sudi is a committee member, but Paul's the current vice president. And John Tedesco is the treasurer. I do videos regularly for John, and you may have seen some of them on LinkedIn. If you haven't, then if you look at them, you know that a lot of them are actually shot by me. So I'm a semi-professional videographer. I'm not a video producer, but I'm a semi-professional videographer with basic entry-level equipment, but I can get the job done. And actually, I even work with Kelvin, who's a newer member of the Chamber, who's not on the board as well. And Kelvin is a very good live streamer, and he's involved in video production as well. So I actually work with a few people in the Chamber regularly on many different projects.
And what sort of benefits have you got from being a member of the Chamber?
I really get a good community and referral partners, strategic partners involved. I have actually got clients from the chamber before. My biggest legal client was actually Western Australian, even though I had more interest over interstate, and they had 20 lawyers in their team at the time. So the opportunity to engage with them in person with their staff led to the practice manager reaching out to me on LinkedIn after I initiated the conversation. Whereas before he was probably a bit hesitant or didn't understand what I was capable of.
And so if there's someone else thinking about joining the chamber, maybe a small business owner in the local area, but they're sitting on the fence, what would you say to them?
I would say that the connections you make are very vital, and the fact that they're local and you can meet them in person is another very important factor, because as much as you can do a lot of business interstate, nationally, online, internationally, the support you get from local, physically available people is very different from the support you get from someone that you only see through Zoom. And it's a whole world of difference, and it's actually good to have these physically able to meet people instead of just behind the screen. Whether or not you receive clients or direct clients or not is irrelevant. The support network and the community will help you learn, grow, and also get mental, emotional, and moral support throughout your business journey. So it's invaluable, and the friendships are a bit like a small family.
It is. It's like a small dysfunctional family, isn't it? So if anyone wants to find out more about who you are and what you're doing, they want to reach out, what's the best way to get in touch?
My phone number is 0400-688-215, and my email address, my personal business email address is my first name, Clarence, CLARENCE, at Marketlytics, which is a combination of the word marketing and the word analytics, which is marketlytics.com.au. I do not own the .com. I only own the .com.au.
We'll add all these details into the video so people can reach out to you. Anything else you want to add to the members before we wrap it up?
I would say, okay, one thing I think that is lacking from the membership here that some other private networking groups, business networking groups are good at, is one-to-ones. So you're on the board, I'm the board. Monique visits the board all the time, so that's why we all know each other. And then John happens to be on the board. John was the one that invited me to the board, and Paul is on the board. And so really, there are only a few people that are not on the board that I really gel well with, like Kelvin. But the thing is that one thing to learn from private networking groups, business networking groups, that we should do as a chamber more is to have one-on-ones with the members of the chamber. Just make an effort to reach out and just get the one-on-one, because that makes a whole level of difference to what level of engagement and understanding you have of the person or business. And that could mean cash in the bank for you, or could give you the means to get cash in the bank for you.
I agree. I actually had a one-to-one this morning with someone from a private networking group. So I think, that community's, that culture rather, is something that we can bring in as members.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap it up there. Clarence Ling, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Applaud everyone. Crowd.